I work at a small McDonald's in a tiny southern town. One of those places where everybody knows everybody, and not much ever really happens. Or at least, that's what I thought. I've run into my fair share of weirdos on the job, but what I saw the other day shook me more than anything else. And what's worse, hardly anyone else even seemed to notice. It was around 7:00 p.m., right in the middle of our dinner rush. The lobby was packed, families, teenagers, a few little kids running around like usual. I tend to keep an eye on the kids when I can, not in a weird way. I just like kids. And honestly, it gives me a bit of a break from the chaos behind the counter. But we were slammed that night. I got caught up taking orders, restocking. I hadn't looked over at the play area in maybe 10, 15 minutes. Then I heard something. A man's voice, soft and low, asking, "So, how old are you?" My ears perked up. I looked over and saw this really tall guy, shaved head, red shirt, standing there, talking to a little girl who couldn't have been more than 6. He had a little boy on his shoulders, around the same age. The kid was giggling like they were having the time of their lives. At first glance, it might have looked like a dad playing with his kids. But something about the way he was talking, it didn't sit right with me. Why would a grown man ask a child how old she is? If he's supposed to know her, and why was he leading the conversation like that? Then he said something that made my stomach twist. "You should come with me now. I have a little brother who's 6 too. Let's go play with him." And just like that, he started walking toward the exit, still carrying the boy on his shoulders. And the little girl, she was following close behind. I didn't even think. I just moved. I rushed around the counter, heading straight for the door, ready to step in. But right as I got there, a blonde woman suddenly burst out of the bathroom, shouting, "Hey, where are you guys going? Get over here." The man froze. His eyes went wide, like he'd just been caught red-handed. He slowly put the little boy down, and a woman swooped in, scooping up the girl, reaching for her son. The guy started stammering, "Oh, I was just playing with your kids. They're really sweet. I really like kids." He tried to smile, but it came off all wrong. Nervous, creepy, desperate. The mom gave him this fake smile, but her eyes, they were full of venom. She didn't say what she was probably thinking, just replied, "Oh, well, I'm glad you had a nice time, but we need to order now." Then she led her kids to the other side of the restaurant and never took her eyes off them. Not for a second. The guy didn't stick around. He slipped out through the front exit and disappeared for the rest of the time they were there. That mom kept both her kids clutched tight at her side, even in the booth. And honestly, I couldn't blame her. I still think about how close that moment was. If I hadn't turned around when I did, if she had stayed in the bathroom just 30 seconds longer, who knows where those kids might have ended up. I don't understand how nobody else noticed. There were people sitting just a few feet away, and not one of them reacted. And yeah, maybe the mom shouldn't have left her kids alone in a public place, even if it's a McDonald's. But still, nobody deserves to have their children taken away by some predator pretending to play nice. If that guy ever walks back through our doors, I won't hesitate. I'll call the cops immediately, because people like him, they don't just play. They wait for the moment when no one's looking. This happened about a year ago. For context, both my friend Anna and I are 22-year-old women. It was a chill weekend, and we decided to drive out to this super well-known beach town in Southern California. One of those places that's packed with celebrities, palm trees, and overpriced smoothies. The day was great. We took some fun pictures, walked around the beach, and on the drive back, we were starving. So we figured we'd swing by a McDonald's before heading home. It was the one right across the street from that ultra-famous restaurant you always hear about. You know, the one where rich people go to be seen. Now, what we didn't know at the time was that the McDonald's parking lot is kind of a hotspot for celebrity drivers. Guys in black Escalades who just park there and wait while their clients have dinner across the road. We just thought it was a normal fast food spot. All we wanted was a McFlurry. As soon as we got out of the car, Anna started acting weird. She locked the doors twice, grabbed her expensive camera, and kept glancing over at a group of men standing outside the building. I asked what was up, and she said, kind of low-key, "Those guys are staring at us. I don't like it." I shrugged it off. I've lived in rougher neighborhoods. I figured we were fine. This was a fancy, busy town, after all. We went inside. There were a few other people around our age eating, so it felt pretty normal. We ordered our food and sat down. Not even 2 minutes later, one of the guys from outside came in and sat a few booths away, perfectly positioned so he could just sit there and watch us. He didn't order anything, didn't take out a phone, just sat there and stared. Anna was clearly uncomfortable, and I started to feel it too. She said we should just leave. I agreed, but I told her I needed to use the bathroom first. Now, this McDonald's had kind of a weird layout. The bathroom wasn't near the main dining area. It was down a side hallway, almost secluded, with another door that led directly outside, right next to it. When I walked back there, I didn't notice if anyone else was in the restroom. I just went into the first stall and started doing my thing. A few seconds later, I heard the door open, and Anna called my name. I was confused, like, "What? Yeah, I'm fine." She just kinda stood there silently for a second, and then walked out. At that point, I thought maybe she was just being a little paranoid. But when I came out and saw her standing by the exit with all our stuff, she looked pale, panicked. She didn't even wait for me to speak, just grabbed my arm and said, "We need to go. Now." It wasn't until we were speeding away in her car that she told me what happened. Apparently, when I went to the bathroom, that same creepy guy followed me about a minute later. Neither of us noticed him at the time. She was distracted on her phone. But a random young guy sitting nearby saw it happen. He walked up to Anna and asked, "Hey, do you know that guy?" She said no. He looked worried and told her the man had just followed me into the bathroom. Anna freaked out, ran to check on me, and when she stepped into the restroom, she saw the stall door next to mine wide open, and a man standing inside it. He wasn't using the bathroom. He didn't say a word. He just stood there. She called my name, trying not to panic. And when I answered, that's when a guy suddenly walked out of the stall, brushed right past her, and left through the side exit by the bathroom. She grabbed all our things and was waiting by the door when I came out, still trying to process what had just happened. When we got to the car, he was already there, sitting inside a black SUV with tinted windows, parked right next to us, still staring. We got the hell out of there, shaking and trying to make sense of it. We called that McDonald's right after, but they didn't seem to care much. The non-emergency sheriff's line was closed. Thankfully, my mom went full mama bear mode. She made a huge deal about it on social media until we finally got through to someone at corporate. They pulled the security footage, confirmed that the man had followed me inside, and we finally got a police report filed. To this day, I don't know what that guy's intentions were. He didn't say a word. He just stood there, watching, waiting. And it still gives me chills to think about what could have happened if Anna hadn't been paying attention, or if that random stranger hadn't spoken up. A few years back, I was living with my mom in a low-income apartment complex in Minnesota. Money was tight enough that paying for internet just wasn't an option. So I did what any desperate broke college-age kid would do, piggyback off my neighbor's unsecured Wi-Fi signals. When those went out, and they always went out, I'd bundle up and walk to the nearest McDonald's to use their free Wi-Fi. It became such a regular thing that I pretty much had my own unofficial booth there. One evening, I was about to head out for my usual Wi-Fi run when the guy who lived next door stopped me. His name was Joe. I didn't know him well, just that he was older, kind of hunched over, always smelled faintly of cigarettes and beer, and had a beard that looked like it hadn't been washed since the Clinton administration. He offered to give me a ride, said he'd buy me a coffee too. I figured, what the hell, free ride and free coffee. We got into his beat-up truck and made the icy drive to McDonald's. Once we were inside, I grabbed a booth and powered up my old laptop while Joe went to get the coffees. When he came back, he sat across from me and asked, "Hey kid, ever heard of God's DNA?" I stared at him, confused, thinking maybe I misheard. I asked him to repeat himself, and that's when he launched into this bizarre rant about how God's DNA is what holds the universe together, and somehow it proves men are genetically superior to women. Yeah, that was the moment I realized I'd made a mistake. I nodded along awkwardly, waiting for my laptop to finish loading, then grabbed my coffee and casually slipped into another booth while he wasn't paying attention. I figured that'd be the end of it. But then things got even stranger. While I tried to browse the internet, I noticed other men just as scruffy and odd-looking as Joe coming in and sitting with him one after the other. They all had that same greasy lumberjack look, like they'd been plucked straight out of a survivalist bunker in the woods. I don't know what they were talking about, but I'd bet anything it had something to do with God's DNA. I tried my best to keep my head down, but I kept catching them glancing over at me when they thought I wasn't paying attention. Eventually, Joe excused himself to the bathroom, probably to unleash whatever ungodly McMeal was brewing inside him, and I used that moment to quietly pack up and slip out the door. The freezing Minnesota wind hit me like a wall, but honestly, I preferred the cold to whatever the hell I had just been sitting in. As I neared my apartment, I heard the crunch of tires on snow behind me. I turned around and saw Joe's truck creeping down the road. He was behind the wheel, and sitting next to him was one of the same beardy guys from McDonald's. I gave them a little wave, trying to play it cool, but they didn't wave back. They just drove slowly past without saying a word. After that night, things got even more unsettling. Every time I went back to McDonald's, no matter what time, no matter what day, either Joe or one of those weird mountain men would be there, always watching, never saying anything, just there. It felt like they somehow knew I'd be coming, like they were expecting me. I started avoiding them as best I could, but I still had to use the internet, and McDonald's was my only option. I got to the point where I'd sit facing the door, just so I wouldn't get snuck up on. The whole thing messed with my head. Then, one day, Joe vanished. Someone apparently broke into his apartment and stole his bicycle. After that, he packed up and left. Not long after, I started hearing things. Neighbors telling me Joe traded food stamps for drugs, and that he used to tell women he wanted to leave his body and spirit and ravish them while they slept. I'm not even sure what that means, but I'm very sure I never want to know. After he left, those guys stopped showing up too. I still saw one or two of them hanging around once or twice. But then, just like Joe, they were gone. When I was a kid, I had this really bad habit of talking way too much to people I didn't know. My parents warned me about it constantly. Don't talk to strangers. Stop oversharing. But it just didn't click for me. I wasn't trying to be reckless or anything. I just liked talking. And I didn't see the danger in being friendly. This happened when I was around 8 or 9. My mom had taken me to McDonald's one night, along with her friend and her daughter, sort of a mini playdate for us. After we ate, we ran off to the play area, which was indoors. It was pretty late, and the place was basically empty. Besides us, there was just one man, sitting alone, near the play place, and a few employees behind the counter. Now, instead of ignoring him, like a normal kid probably would, I decided this was the perfect opportunity to strike up a conversation. I walked right up to him with my friend and just started talking. I introduced both of us, told him our names, talked about school, what we liked doing, where we went to play, probably even mentioned what neighborhood we lived in. I don't remember everything I said. It was just your usual kid rambling, but it was a lot. A lot. The man barely said anything back. At one point, he took out his phone, called someone, and started speaking in another language I didn't recognize. Eventually, we lost interest and went back to the play area. A little while later, the man left. I didn't think anything of it. My friend and I kept playing like nothing had happened. But then, maybe an hour after he was gone, something strange happened. A man I didn't recognize walked in through the front entrance, and he wasn't alone. He had a young girl with him, probably around my age. The girl immediately ran up to the glass wall near the play area and started calling my name excitedly, like we were old friends. I walked over completely confused. I had no idea who this girl was, but she acted like she knew me. She started talking to me like we had known each other forever, bringing up all kinds of specific things about my life, my school, my hobbies, even little details about what I liked. I remember thinking, did I meet her before? And just forget. But looking back now, I realize everything she said was stuff I had told that man earlier. He had clearly repeated it all to her over the phone. Then she tried to get me to come outside with her, said she wanted to hang out. And the worst part is, I was about to do it. I started walking toward the exit. I didn't see anything wrong with it. That's when my mom caught on to what was happening. She dropped what she was doing and sprinted across the restaurant, grabbed me by the arm, pulled me away, and rushed us out through a different exit to the car. The second we got in, she floored it. I was still yelling, totally confused about why she was acting like this. She didn't say a word, but when I looked out the back window, I saw the man and the little girl coming out of the restaurant, getting into their own car, and pulling out right after us. They were following us. I could feel the panic in my mom's driving. She was taking random turns, weaving through unfamiliar streets, clearly trying to lose them. It took a few minutes, but eventually we did. When she was sure they were gone, she finally drove us home. And when we got inside, I got in big trouble. That's when she explained what had really happened. That man I talked to had probably fed everything I told him to the girl and the guy who came in later. She said it was almost certainly a kidnapping setup, and I had walked right into it. I didn't understand back then. I couldn't wrap my head around why a girl my age would be part of something like that. But now I know. And it still makes me sick to think about how close I came to walking out of that restaurant. If my mom hadn't caught on when she did, I might not be here to tell this story. I also could have dragged my friend into danger too. It's a reminder that not all danger looks scary. Sometimes it looks just like you. It's finals week at my university, and I've been stuck pulling late nights at the library. Tonight was especially brutal. I didn't leave until almost 5 in the morning. I was starving and way too tired to cook, so I figured I'd hit the McDonald's closest to campus. It's open 24 hours, and honestly, it saved my life more times than I can count during weeks like this. So I'm pulling into the drive-thru when I notice something weird. There's this all-white dog barking like crazy, chasing a guy on a bicycle across the massive parking lot that McDonald's shares with a grocery store. It's a pretty big open space, and there are some nearby apartment complexes, so I didn't think too much of it at first. Figured it was just some random neighborhood stray chasing a delivery dude or something. Anyway, I roll up to the intercom place my order and pull forward to the second window. And I realize I'm the only car in the drive-thru at the moment. As I'm sitting there waiting to pay, this guy suddenly comes out from behind a silver car parked off to the side. Not out of the car from behind it, which immediately struck me as off. He starts walking toward me. This guy is a good 40 or 50 feet away, so I've got time to watch him as he approaches. And I'm hoping maybe he's heading toward the restaurant entrance, which is in the same direction. But nope. He walks straight to the passenger side of my car. It's dark in the lot, but I can make out enough of his features to feel uneasy. He looked like he was in his late 30s, maybe early 40s, with a hoodie pulled over his head, scruffy facial hair, and what looked like acne scars, or some kind of marks all over his face. His skin was light brown, and he didn't look particularly clean. I immediately rolled up my driver's side window and cracked the passenger side just enough to hear him. He leans in and says, "Hey man, think you could give me a jump? I've got the cables and everything. Now, on a different day, maybe I'd feel bad and try to help." But the vibe was just off. Something about him didn't sit right with me. I told him I wasn't comfortable with that, and he just stood there for a second, like he wasn't expecting me to say no. Then he finally shrugged and walked off without saying anything else. Right after that, the McDonald's worker popped into the window to take my payment. She asked if I knew the guy and what he wanted. I explained he was asking for a jump start. She looked concerned, but didn't say much else. I got my change and sat there, waiting for my food, trying not to look too paranoid. But while I was waiting, I watched that guy wander the lot, not going to another car, not asking anyone else for help. A couple of cars had pulled up behind me in line, but he ignored them entirely. That's when I knew something was up. If your car's really dead, why not ask the next person? After I got my food, I decided to call the non-emergency police line just to be safe. I didn't want to do it in the McDonald's lot, and I didn't want to risk pulling over somewhere crowded. So I drove across the street to an empty H&R Block lot and parked there to look up the number. While I'm sitting there with my phone, I hear a bark, loud and close. I look up, startled, and there it is again. That same white dog. It's still chasing that guy on the bike. Only now, they're circling the parking lot I'm in. And get this, he slows down just long enough to make eye contact with me. Gives me one of those head nods like, "What's up?" And I do the same back instinctively, before realizing how weird this whole situation is. Then he just takes off again, the dog still going after him. That was enough for me. I got out of there immediately and ended up calling in an anonymous tip about the guy. I don't know what his plan was or why he was lurking behind that car, but I really hope I never cross paths with him or that dog ever again. This happened back when I was about 6 years old. And it's something I'll never forget, no matter how much I wish I could. At the time, I was living with my dad and grandparents. My parents had me when they were teenagers, and my dad ended up with full custody. He was still living at home, so my grandparents helped raise me. They treated me like the daughter they never had. I was especially close with my grandpa, so when he passed away from cancer, it hit all of us really hard. This story happened a few months after he died on a quiet Saturday afternoon. My dad was working that day, so my grandma decided to take me out for lunch. She asked if I wanted McDonald's, and of course, 6-year-old me was all over that. We drove to the location, just a couple minutes down the road, ordered our food, and sat down at a table to eat. The restaurant was mostly empty, just us, pretty calm for a weekend afternoon. About 10 minutes into our lunch, a man walked in. I noticed him right away because he looked completely out of place for our area. He looked like he hadn't showered in weeks, long scraggly white hair and a matching beard, a dirt-stained white shirt, baggy blue shorts, and sandals that looked like they'd been through a war. He ordered some food and sat down diagonally from us, just within my line of sight. My grandma had her back to him, so she didn't see what I saw. At first, I didn't think much of it, but then I noticed his hands under the table. He had something in his lap, something wrinkly, pinkish, and he kept glancing at me, shifting in his seat and rubbing whatever it was. Now, even at 6, I'd already been taught about safe touches and stranger danger. And in that moment, it all clicked. I realized that this man was doing something really wrong. And from the way he kept looking at me, I knew I wasn't just imagining it. I froze. I felt sick to my stomach. But I didn't say anything to my grandma. I was scared that if I said something out loud, he might get angry or come after us. My dad wasn't there, and in my little kid brain, I thought only my dad could protect us. So I just quietly slid my Happy Meal box in front of my face to block my view of him, and stopped eating. I'd barely touched my food, but when Grandma asked if I was full, I just nodded. She didn't think much of it. Me not finishing a meal was pretty normal. Then she asked if I wanted to go play in the play area, and I quickly said I want to go home. She could tell something was off, but she didn't press me. She cleaned up our tray, and we left. The second we got home, I still felt like I was going to throw up. Grandma looked at me and asked, "What's wrong, Munchkin?" That's what she always called me, and I just started crying. Through tears, I told her what I saw. She didn't panic. She didn't overreact. She just gave me a big hug, told me it was going to be okay, and handed me one of those blue Kool-Aid bursts. Then she told me to go play in my room. She even sent our dog Patches with me, probably to help me feel safer. Once I was out of earshot, she got on the phone and called the McDonald's. She told them what had happened, and the guy was still there. The manager said he'd take care of it and call her back. About an hour later, he did. He told my grandma they called the cops, and when the officers arrived and told the man to stand up, he still had himself hanging out of his shorts, completely exposed. They arrested him on the spot. As a weird sort of silver lining, the manager told Grandma we could come back and pick up a bunch of coupons for free Happy Meals, as kind of an apology for what happened. But to be honest, I didn't want to go back there for a long, long time. I still think about that moment, especially how close I came to saying nothing. What if he had followed us out? What if my grandma hadn't believed me? Thankfully, she did, and she handled it like a boss. I actually have another story from a few years later that involved another creep and my dad. But let's just say that one didn't end so calmly. I'll save that one for another time.